ITBabble No Frills video. This video is about teaching online, and it is to support all those people who are now doing remote teaching because they are separated from their students due to the coronavirus. If you've already gotten started, it's fine. These tips are going to help you regardless. I am confident they will help you. I've used these in the past myself, and I've even used these to help guide deploying software and solutions for teachers and students to make sure that things are as streamlined as possible. So let's get into it. The first thing is keep it simple. When you start your online classroom, you start your online process, keep the number of things that you're doing to a minimum. Make sure everyone can get in, make sure everybody is using a common, simple tool set to achieve your class goals, your main class goals. You can add to it and spice it up as you go, but you don't want to start with too much. It gets too confusing, and you do need a couple of sessions to work through certain user errors. You want to use formative tools. So, formative tools allow you to get feedback and information and comments from your students. Use as many formative tools as you can because that is a benefit of working online. You can use a lot of formative tools and build feedback. Students give you feedback, you give them feedback. It is a great way to learn. Remember, you can work asynchronously, and I'll mention this a few times. You want to develop a model where you're putting the content out and you're letting the students work through it, and you're not having to connect with them in real time all the time. Remember, it is a flipped classroom, and trying to sync everybody up will be problematic. If you have older students, you don't really need to lecture in real time. You can record your lectures, put them out there, and then you can set office hours for live one-on-one chat sessions. You do want to set office hours for any type of real-time meeting, and you need to stick to those. If not, especially if you're in different time zones, you're going to have a really difficult time keeping up with things. Create a series of check-ins for reading and assignments. When a class kicks off, if they've had an assignment, you want a check-in, you want a quick quiz, you want something, and make sure they know they're being assessed. Do not proceed without a check-in. You need to let them know that it's not a time to be looking up and researching. If you're meeting in real time, it's usually for a discussion. It's not a time to read. You want to keep those real time meetings for real time activities. And set strict deadlines because when you work online, you move faster. You're not going to be able to keep up collecting work in the past if you're giving a lot of feedback. It's going to really slow everybody down. So just don't take late work, set the deadline and move on, especially if you have older students. They will get the hang of it and they will catch up. They will have a more disposable time if they're working through this method and they're not going to class. In terms of your department, you want to set a daily department check-in. If you can't do it in real time, at least set a time every day to check in with your department somehow in a forum or in some structured format. The idea is that you're checking in, you're explaining what you're doing, you're posting any problems your department head could possibly help with, and you're making certain that everybody is on the same page. You also want to set a weekly check-in with your principal to do the same thing. This isn't a time to complain or have long conversations. This is a 10 to 15-minute check-in period if you're meeting all together. And if not, you would check in for a few minutes, put up your information, and move on. Everybody will benefit from this, and it'll give your head of department and your principal a chance to help work through issues as they come up and take care of them on your behalf. It's important to stay on track as a team and department and not to fragment the ecosystem. So this means that you should only use official tools and don't use unapproved applications or social media. So for example, if everyone's using Google Classroom, great. Don't move your class to Facebook groups. This isn't going to be beneficial. It's going to be hard for you to prove what you've been doing. It's going to be hard for you to run any kind of assessment, and it's going to be hard for your administrators to have any kind of oversight and to support you if there's some kind of conflict with a parent or something like that. You just want to stay together. If you find a new tool and you think it's amazing, that's what the daily check-in is for. Suggest the new tool, give people time to check it, confirm it with your principal if you need to, and move on. But that's why you want to set up this cycle. If you can't access systems. For example, maybe you can't get into your Power School because it's hosted at your school and for some reason you can't log in. Contact your IT team and get rosters. So your roster should include students' names, email addresses, and their parents' emails at least. That way, in case students aren't showing up or you're having some other issue, you have another way to contact them besides your online system. You would obviously use your school email and contact them to their school email or their parents' personal email. Bad behavior is bad behavior. You need to moderate it out immediately. If you kick off an online session and you have students flooding the chat with inappropriate things or just constantly being a distraction, kick them out. Remove them from the class. Don't just put your norms up, put your rules up. They don't obey it. Moderate them out immediately. You can always add them back in, but moderate them out and contact their parents. If you do this and you do it immediately, all of your problems will stop. If you let this go, it will just build and build. Remember, you cannot usually control them harassing one another, things you're not seeing. So, bad behavior building is just going to spiral out of control and you're not going to be able to manage it. YouTube. If you are a Google Apps for Education school, when you log in to YouTube and sign in with your account, you should see something in the upper right hand corner that says Studio. Using Studio, you can record yourself live. So if you want to do a lecture where you're on the screen, and maybe you have manipulatives, maybe you're working with younger students and you want them to see what you're working with, you want to write on a whiteboard, this is a good way to do it because if they can join, they can join, but when you're done, there is a recording to share. And it's an interesting tool if you use it that way. It's not the screen sharing type tool like I'm using here, but a lot of people find it more efficient, especially if they want to write. So if you have a portable whiteboard and you want to write, this is a really good solution. And again, you've got it to use later. They don't have to join at the same time. It's an excellent way to keep everyone like synchronized. Microsoft Stream also has this feature. A lot of people aren't using it. It's through Office 365. It can be enabled. The main difference between Stream and YouTube is that Stream is completely private. So it's not out there for people to search, and they do have to be in your organization to see it. So, for example, parents probably wouldn't be able to see it. Microsoft Teams, fairly new product, originally designed for corporate, very good for education. It's designed just for this thing. Working remotely on projects and software pretty much has all the tools you're going to need. And if you have Office 365 at your school, it's available for free. So if you're not using Teams, you can start a team, add your students. It's just like a classroom, but the tools like the file sharing, everything, it's all integrated so nobody has to hunt for anything. I really like Teams, and I think it's worth giving a shot if you have access to it and you don't really like your interface. Finally, avoid tools that require a VPN. So if you have students in China, for example, and you are maybe in Thailand, remember your students might need a VPN still, even though you don't. So don't suggest tools that are going to put them at a disadvantage. Keep equity of access at the top of your list of things to check off for any tools that you're looking for. Assuming kids have a working VPN at home, especially in a situation where there's kind of a governmental crisis going on, is a bad assumption. It's actually not that difficult for a country like China to make it more difficult for people to use their VPNs, and most students and families don't have the kind of high end, tech savvy level VPNs that certain people might possess. Just keep that in mind. They're just using an app that they turn on. If it connects, it connects. If it doesn't, it doesn't. They're not going to be able to beat some new rules that China imposes because they're trying to control like information flow or something. Just something to consider. And besides, equity of access should be important. You don't want a percentage of your students to literally not be able to participate.